Hi, in this lesson, we'll explore APIs and abstraction. Let's take a look at two programs that you've written or explored so far. The first one is inventory. When you run this program, it should print the amount of coins, money, tools, and tasks that the user has. So when we press run in the CodeHS editor, we see that the user has 18 coins, $9, 5 tools, and 7 tasks remaining. Let's look at another program. In this ladder button program, when the user touches the button, the ladder object becomes solid and climbable. So when we press run in the CodeHS editor, we get an error statement. You may have already noticed this and perhaps have wondered, why do some programs work in the CodeHS editor and others don't? This is because the ladder button program uses functions that are specific to the Roblox API and only work within Roblox Studio. API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a set of tools for building programs. Roblox created the Roblox API to make it easier to program games in Roblox. They did this by creating additional commands that are added to the standard Lua programming language. These additional commands are specific to Roblox programs. For example, you can easily access a player's current health, see their max health, and deal them damage with these 3 functions. The cool thing about these additional Roblox commands is that they are all defined in code behind the scenes. So the touched event might actually look something like this. That is significantly more lines of code. The Roblox API makes it so that we can simply write platform.touched without writing out all of the code or even worry about how it works. With this in mind, the Roblox API decreases the complexity of programming in Roblox games by abstracting away the specific details. Here's another word you might not know. So what is abstraction? Well, let's start with a real-world example. Let's say someone asks, how do you beat the obby? You can provide a general response like this one. You follow the path and overcome obstacles until you reach the end. Or you could go into a little more detail. Well, you jump from your starting location to the first platform. Then you walk carefully along the thin winding platform, avoiding the lava pit below. Then you jump on the circle platform, and so forth. You could even go into more detail. Perhaps zooming in on jumping from the starting location to the first platform by saying you turn from your starting position to face the first platform. You press the forward arrow to move towards the platform, and then press the space bar at the right moment to jump onto the first platform. Then we keep going. So giving that final answer is probably more than your friend was expecting. That is way too many details. This is where abstraction comes into play. Abstraction manages complexity by abstracting away information and detail in order to focus on the relevant concepts. Going back to our obby example, the first response would be an example of a high level of abstraction. There are minimal details and extra information. And our last response would be an example of a low level of abstraction. Most of the details and complexity remain here. Procedural abstraction is defining the steps of a program without worrying about exactly how each step works under the hood. Let's look at a common childhood dance, the hokey pokey. What if the words were something like this? You flex your left tricep, then you flex your left pinky muscle, and then you flex your left, and this would just be bad. That's super complicated. Instead, the words are like this. You put your left hand in, you take your left hand out, you put your left hand in, and you know how the rest goes. That way is way more simple. This shows how we can use procedural abstraction to define steps without worrying about how they work. We can say put your left hand in without going into every single detail involved with moving your left hand. Bringing it back to computers are complicated. Programming languages and APIs abstract away all of these complex details. Looking at the touch function again, we can see that the command platform.touched is the highest level of abstraction. Then we have the code behind the touched function as a middle level of abstraction. And finally, the lowest level of abstraction would be the machine code, the binary code that is in all zeros and ones. One last thing on APIs and abstraction. Documentation is an important part of an API. The documentation, or docs for short, of an API is like the manual that explains how to use it. Roblox has extensive documentation on their API. Going back to the player health functions, in the Roblox docs, you can find specific information on how these functions work. This is extremely important. Even though you don't have to worry about how these functions work behind the scenes, you still need to know how they work in general. Otherwise, you might use them incorrectly or be confused about why your program isn't working. In summary, I'll leave you with this beautiful quote. The essence of abstractions is preserving information that is relevant in a given context, and forgetting information that is irrelevant in that context. Now that you know all about abstractions and APIs, you'll have the chance to explore this topic further in the following activities. Have fun!